Hi, everyone. Welcome to the So I'm a Fan of podcast, where people from different fandoms come together to share why they love what they love.
And sometimes hate what they hate.
I'm your host, Kaiser Brown, and today we're talking about a very special show, one of my favorite shows in the universe. Sabrina, what is it? What is it? Tell the viewers what it is. Tell us.
It's X-Men Evolution.
X-Men Evolution. X-Men Evolution. X-Men Evolution. Do X-Men Evolution dance, Sabrina. X-Men Evolution. X-Men Evolution. X-Men Evolution. You know how they do them. That's the Raven. That's my jam. You gotta
Oh, God.
Oh my gosh. Oh Lord.
Gosh.
As soon as I pressed the record button, I got energized because I love X-Men Evolution. I don't even have any X-Men jokes. I forgot to get some X-Men jokes. OMG, y'all. Let me search up an X-Men joke and see if Sabrina can
Oh gosh, the cringe of it all.
You have to have some cringeness right now.
I love that for us. It's very on brand.
It is. Okay. Why is Magneto a comic book villain?
Why?
Because he has the power to manipulate magnetism, but still can attract women. That ain't right. That's kind of messed up. That's the first one I read. I don't like that one. He does attract women and men too.
I was about to say, I don't know about that. I think that's debatable.
He is a handsome old man. So
I'll give you that one. And especially in the newer media, what's the gentleman's name? The one who played him in X-Men Origins and whatever, not like the younger versions. I'm like, yes, sir.
Let me find another one. Oh Lord, these are also comic heavy.
Bad?
No, they're not bad. They just comic heavy. If you ever read a comic, you laugh. Let's see. Let me find a good one. They have a whole bunch of Magneto jokes.
Fan favorite.
Oh, this is a mean joke. I don't want to say it. Yo, mama's so fat when she steps on Wolverine, even he can't heal himself. You know what? Let's just get to the episode. I'm not going there.
Please.
That's me.
Them jokes are bad.
Them white nerd jokes. Them white nerd jokes. Sabrina, how are you today?
I'm doing okay. Starting off the day right with a podcast episode.
Starting off the day. It's late today. Did you just wake up or something?
Don't judge me, okay?
Look, I want to ask you, what have you been reading, watching? Anything going on this week that you need to tell us about? Any drama? Seen any mutants lately?
Oh, I wish. No, I've just been, obsessed with my usual isekai female villainess genre. But other than that, nothing much.
A lot of
I know, I'm just obsessed. I love a nice, strong woman.
What's the most recent one you've been reading?
Ooh, okay. So there's one, it's called Death is the Only Ending for a Villainess. And it falls along like the concept of like the video game kind of route of where she wakes up in a video game as the villainess who is like the hardest character to play in the entire dating sim. Because everybody else starts out with like basically hating her, like lack of favorability. Whereas if you start as like the main character of the game, she starts out with like a decent amount of favorability with everybody. And it's all about her like breaking the mold of the game and still being a villain, because sometimes I hate when they're like, I'm just not going to be a villain. Like, I'm going to be better than that, which great for you, Mary Sue. But
Mary Sue.
Yeah, it's like the classic thing. Like, I don't want to be the villain anymore. I'm just not going to be the villain. Whereas this girl is like, I'm not going to be a hero, but I'm not going to be afraid to be a villain because I'm not going to be pushed around by all these main characters.
Well, I see that, but what I see with a lot of isekai after what the villainous anime All Routes Lead to Doom, that one.
Yes,
I've noticed because I don't really watch a lot of them, but that trope whenever they have like the villainess and they want to be good, it's always because like she gonna die in the game if she isn't. You know what I mean? So she got to be everybody's best friend because you ain't everybody's best friend, everybody gonna kill you. So I would do the same thing if I'm being honest. Cause I'm not dying cause y'all. Not today.
That's why I like I said, the one I'm reading currently, that one, she's afraid of death, but she'll have like these confrontations. Like she's not afraid to say, you know what, I'm not afraid of dying. Like I'm sick and tired of how you treat me. And she'll just clap
So
back.
they treat her like dirt.
Not like dirt, but they basically treat her like, man, you were a dirty villain. You're always going to be a dirty villain. And she's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to be a dirty villain, but it's better than this self-righteous prick who thinks he's better than everybody else just because you get to be quote unquote a hero. And I love her. I do.
Good for her. Good for her.
Anyway, I guess we're back on track.
No, but what have I been watching? You didn't ask me.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry, Kaiser. I just thought you'd been in a hole of X-Men Evolution. What have you been
I
watching?
have been watching X-Men Evolution because once we started this, I did not turn back. I told you earlier, I only watched, like, the first 4 or 5 episodes of the first season, but I love me some X-Men Evolution. I love this show, but besides that, I've been watching those Doctor Who specials, because
Mm,
watch Doctor Who? They brought back the 10th Doctor, he's now the 14th Doctor, and they brought back Donna. It's been so fun. The episode that came out last week, because there's a new episode that comes out by the
mhm,
time this podcast is out, that new episode premiered. But it's been such an emotional roller coaster having those 2 back together because me and my sisters used to just love watching some good old Doctor Who. 10th Doctor was my favorite. The Doctor and Rose were awesome. The Doctor and Martha were awesome. But the Doctor and Donna were really just fun because they were just like the best of friends. And seeing them back together, I'm excited. I got back into Doctor Who watching this. With the woman doctor, I watched a little bit of her stuff, but I was in school most of the time, so I never really got to watch those episodes because like streaming and stuff. So like
mhm,
we didn't do all that. But now that they put it on Disney Plus or whatever, and the episodes are coming out, like the newer episodes are coming out,
mhm.
it's fun to watch. And I'm excited because we got a black Doctor Who coming. Like, come on now.
We love
Yes.
them.
I'm excited. We love the blackness. It's the guy from Sex Education. I never watched that Netflix show, but he played in
I
Sex
never watched that
Education.
either.
Yeah, he played in Barbie. He was one of the Kens, obviously, and, like, it's so exciting. I'm glad that my people are being represented, you know?
We
So
stan.
mhm,
I don't know, I
and
heard they did the female Doctor dirty.
I heard that too. I heard that too because I like the actress. I saw, like, the first 2 or 3 episodes. I like the actress, but I feel like I heard they did her dirty, and I heard, like, when she first came on, like, that first season she was on was kinda boring. So
Yeah, I heard they did her boring and they kinda
mm,
made her like like they played her bad. Like,
mhm.
they didn't do her justice.
Yeah. But that's the show, it looks nice when she was on it, so that's a good thing, you know? And besides that, in X-Men Evolution, I watched The Archies. The Archies is a new movie on Netflix based on, Archie comics, you know how they have
Mm.
Riverdale or whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but they did this movie called The Archies, kinda sorta based off the Archies band. If anybody doesn't know, you know, the song Sugar Sugar, that very famous song is actually a Archie song from the Archies cartoon in was it the '60s? Sugar, oh, honey, honey, that song. And so, that song came from that cartoon. It became a number 1 hit or whatever. And so they created the Archies movie. It is such a sweet movie. It takes place in India. It's based on, like, the Anglo Indians. So, like, when the English came over to India and they decided to have all the babies and all this stuff. And so, you know, they're light-skinned ones. It takes place in there and it's very American inspired, of course, because it's based on Archie comics. And it is such a sweet movie. I suggest everybody watch that movie. It just got me in the Archie comics mood. I was reading Archie comics since I was like 10 or 11 years old, and I love
Mhm,
Archie so much. I love it, and it did the characters justice. I love Reggie. Reggie is my favorite character in the comic books. He was my favorite character in this movie for a variety of reasons, but we're not getting into why I love Reggie. I can do a whole list of why I love Reggie Mantle. That's not what this episode is about. Maybe one day, but today is about X-Men Evolution. OMG. Sabrina, this is your first time watching X-Men Evolution, right?
mhm,
Like
yeah. I was gonna say, I like the original, like, we talked about the '90s one,
mhm,
but, I'd never seen Evolution.
mhm. Do you know how many X-Men shows there are, animated shows? Can you guess?
Oh, no.
Guess, give me a
Uh,
number between 1 and 10. Is in between that.
it's 5 or 6.
You're really close. So, technically, it is 5. So, you have the
Mm,
technically, it can be 6 too. So, the first X-Men cartoon was actually Pride of the X-Men. That was an X-Men pilot that they did in 1989, but they didn't pick it up
mhm,
as a show. Margaret Loesch, she was this I believe she was the president of Fox, the Fox network at that time, or this was right before she became the president. And she ordered, she's responsible for, like, getting Power Rangers over here and stuff too. With Haim Saban, but, so 'cause Saban did, like, the animation and stuff, they helped a
mhm.
lot with the original X-Men cartoon. Of course, it was outsourced, but, like, they gave money is what I'm trying to say. But, they did the X-Men, Pride of the X-Men special, which focused on Kitty Pryde, who's a character in X-Men Evolution, her coming into the X-Men, and it focused on, like, the, '70s X-Men team. It was like a mix of the '70s and '80s, so you had Wolverine, and this one, he was Australian. Wolverine is Canadian, if anybody doesn't know. He's like this 5'3"
Mhm.
Canadian. And usually in the adaptations, they change it a bit because he's short, but in, like, live action, he's, like, tall and handsome. In the comics, he's,
Mm.
like, short and rugged is what I'll say, and so he's, like but in Pride of X-Men, he was, Australian for some odd reason. He was Australian. I also think in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, have anybody ever seen that show? I grew up watching that show too. So you had Wolverine, Storm, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Dazzler, and Colossus, and, Professor X and Kitty, who joined, and they were going against Magneto, and you had, like, Emma Frost, who was on his team or whatever before she became, like this was in the '80s, so before she became a hero in the X-Men universe, and so that was a cute little pilot they did. Eventually, they put it on videotapes and sold it as Pride of X-Men as this X-Men special, and then that's where the very famous and very fun X-Men the arcade game was based off on. If you never played that, I bet you never played X-Men arcade game, have you?
I haven't played, but I've seen, like, arcades with it.
It's a fun game. You should play it one day. It's not really available on modern devices though. They need to go back at that and start putting it on like PlayStation and stuff because that's such a fun game. I had a ball playing that game when I was younger. And then you had X-Men animated series, of course, in the '90s. That's the one that you see.
Mhm.
It had those X-Men minus like Colossus and Dazzler. They appeared in the '90s series, but they weren't in
Like the
like
team.
the main team, right? And Nightcrawler too, he wasn't in the main team. And,
Yeah.
you had Jean Grey also and a few others, Beasts and whatnot. Then you had X-Men Evolution, which came out a little bit after that in 1999, I believe, and it went on to, like, 2003 or 2004. My favorite X-Men show. It is amazing. Like I said, I watch it every year. Then you have Wolverine the X-Men, so that's 4, right? That's
Mhm.
4, yeah. So
Yeah.
Wolverine the X-Men, and that's the best X-Men show. It's the best one, but it ain't my favorite. The more I watch it, the more I love because I always loved it. It came out in 2009. I was watching it when it came out while I was watching at the same time X-Men Evolution, while I was watching at the same time, X-Men the '90s series. My day was filled with X-Men. I would watch X-Men all day, all day. And, Wolverine and X-Men is an excellent show. It is so good. If anybody watches the X-Men show, watch Wolverine and X-Men. It's only 26 episodes, so it's not that much of a commitment. Watch it. It's a full storyline. It's so good. Leaves it on a cliffhanger. But it's been quite a long. It's been 13 years now. So I mean, and then you have the X-Men anime, which I don't really.
The X-Men.
Yeah, I don't really count. I didn't like it that much. They did my girl Storm dirty. She was just not powerful at all. They do Storm dirty in just about all the animated shows, but this one, they were like, they did in interviews. We make Storm so powerful like she is in the comics or whatever. Whenever she shot a lightning bolt, she would pass out. I'm like, girl, go sit down somewhere. You ain't Storm. And then you had X-Men 97, which is a continuation of the 90s X-Men show, bringing back the voice cast, some as the characters they played, and then some in different roles, like
Mhm.
they switched her with because the actress that played Jubilee was not actually Asian, so they switched her with somebody that is an Asian actress, but she's still in the show. So I like what they did. They brought back everybody to come in the show, even if they aren't playing the roles that they played in the '90s, which is great. But
I'm excited for that. I'll
yeah.
definitely watch that because, like I said, the '90s is my favorite one.
So you got it right. You got it right. 5 or 6 technically. I don't consider the anime. So, either way you got
Mm.
it right. That's good for you. So today, what episodes did we watch of X-Men Evolution, Sabrina?
Um, if I remember correctly, it was season 1, episode 1, which is Strategy X.
Mhm.
Then we watched A Walk on the Wild Side, which was season 2, episode 13. Then we watched The Stuff of Heroes, which was season 3, episode 2.
Yep. And all these are very different episodes, but they're 3 of my favorite episodes. The first episode is, of course, the first episode, introducing you to the characters, the world. The second episode I picked takes place in season 2, so the world building is, built, you know what I mean? The characters are there. You have more new characters that come in with, like, the New Mutant characters and stuff. And in season
Mhm.
3, episode 2 is when they find out about the mutants. So, like, the first 2 seasons, mutants are hidden, okay? By the end of the second season, humans find out about mutants, and a whole bunch of racism and catastrophe goes on, and they deal with a lot with the racism and all that stuff. but that's not what we watch today. Well, it is kind of what we watch today, but that's not what we watch today. So let's get
Mm.
started with season 1, episode 1, Strategy X. So it's a football game. There are cheerleaders. It's Bayville High, where the teenagers, the main teenagers of the X-Men show, go to, and they're in a football game versus their visitors. They don't say who the visitors' names are, I don't believe. And so you have Jean
Uh,
Grey. She's taking pictures of her um kind of boyfriend, Duncan Matthews. Duncan is so annoying.
I hate
Um
that man.
and they're like the Bayville Hawks or whatever. So he's a football player, and when they're like like on the sidelines or whatever, they see Toad. I forget what Toad's actual last name is, but first name is his last name is
So,
Talansky. But I
yeah,
always call him Toad Talansky, and so whenever I
that's what they
remember.
call him.
Mhm. His first name is something a bit longer though. I just forget what it is. Like, my X-Men brain ain't there for because I don't pay attention to Toad that much. Like,
Yeah,
he a cute
well,
fun
he's
character.
like the comedic relief. Like,
Mhm.
he's like the intro character that later on just becomes like a humor aspect,
Mhm.
which we can talk about later in the next episode we talk about.
Yeah.
But no, man, he's
And
picking pockets.
yeah, he's picking pockets. And who sees him? No other than Scott Summers and his blonde white friend. And so they're like, "Hey, dude, check it out."
It is blonde. I don't even know his name either. I'm just like the
Yeah.
blonde white friend.
He has a name, but that's way later in the show. Like, cause the side characters appear every now and then, like the human side characters, but some just really don't matter. Some just fill in a friend role, right? But
Mhm.
this is high school drama. That's what I like about X-Men Evolution. Does this show remind you of like early 2000s high school teenage dramas? Cause that's what it
It
reminds
does.
me.
It does.
From like the environment, obviously high school, to the music, the type of
Yeah.
music they
To,
play.
like, the stereotypical little teeny bopper
Mhm.
roles that they play. Like, of course, you're a jock, you gotta be dumb and mean.
Mhm. The
Yeah.
fashion too, the early 2000s fashion and late
Oh
90s. Oh
gosh.
my gosh. Specifically with the character Spike. You don't see well, if you pay attention to, like, the last part where they show, like, the character designs on the credits, you might see, like, he have his underwear kinda Spike was, like, a black I love Spike, though. He was the black one, that's all I'm gonna say. He was the black kid who rode the skateboard, right?
Mhm.
But he was still my favorite, so for
That's all that
very
matters.
but they did him dirty later on the show, but I'm not g that's not what this is about. We're about
Yeah.
these episodes. But, so they go under the bleachers and start beating up Toad, and then that's when Scott
Yeah, the football players do, to
Mhm.
clarify, I guess.
Yeah,
The
the
football players are the ones that are beating him up.
yeah. Scott joins in too, obviously, on the opposite side, and, they start throwing fists and stuff, and then all of a sudden, Duncan, like, hits him and flings him across, like, under the bleachers, and then his glasses come off, and Sabrina, do you know, what happens when Scott's glasses fall off his face and his
Oh,
eyes are open?
yeah. Laser blast, my guy. Done.
Mhm. Mhm, mhm,
And, of
and
course, what does he hit other than not only the bleachers, but a gas main, right?
right.
It was like, it just explosion.
Yeah,
Like,
and, like
a little tussle under the bleachers became a whole terrorist attack.
It's funny how it just hit that exact thing in that exact moment at that exact time. It's just, like, weird. It's almost as if it was, like, some contrived part of, like, the plot.
Yeah, it was almost like it was meant to happen.
Yeah, it was like it was meant to happen. I don't know, like,
Oh my
what?
god.
So Toad escapes, Jean sees it, and, it's like fireworks, and that's when the intro plays. Did you watch the X-Men Evolution intro?
Oh, I'll be honest.
What? Don't you see, I get it with
You
anime where
can't
you
you
say,
can't
like,
judge me.
spoilers or whatever, but the X-Men Evolution intro sets up the show, Sabrina. It's so good.
I'm sorry. It's the habit built on many times a spoiled in an intro or an
Mm-mm.
outro.
Some
So
told
I
me
just
to some told me to tell you to, like, go and watch the intro while you were watching the show, because it doesn't the only thing, like, it
you didn't
tells
tell
you,
me.
like, the I should have told you. Some told me to tell you. The only thing it tells you are, like, the characters' names or whatever, like, so you
Oh,
see the
okay. Well,
character.
that's why I didn't know anybody's names this whole
Yeah.
time until they came up
Yeah.
or had subtitles on, so if I could catch their name in the subtitles, I'd catch it.
Yeah, man, Sabrina, the X-Men Evolution intro is on and popping. I wanna stop this right now and just tell you to watch it, but we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. I'm gonna tell you to watch it after the intro after, cause like, you should never skip an X-Men intro. Never. Never the '90s one, never X-Men Evolution. You can skip Wolverine and X-Men every now and then, but don't skip those 2. Those are the best. intros ever. You don't even have to watch the X-Men anime, just skip that altogether. But, watch that intro. It sets up the entire show, and so you can know the characters' names. It's a classic X-Men trope to where they do a close-up on the characters in the intro and put the names, you know what I mean? So you gotta do that, okay? But, this ain't me calling you out right now. We just gonna do
Well, you
that.
just did, okay?
I
Back to the story.
what happens? Go ahead.
Okay, well, so of course, like, as this is happening, Gene starts, like, clearing the rubble to find Scott's glasses because he can't go nowhere until he has his glasses and his eyes covered. And then meanwhile, while the police are investigating, Professor X uses his mind reading ability to kind of persuade the officer that it was just like a gas leak that was unchecked and just exploded on its own. Um, and so, of course, Gene and Scott leave, going back home, as the football jerk, Duncan, is getting
Mhm.
taken to the hospital for his
Oof.
concussion.
Duncan.
And of course, this isn't a scene of teenagers without Scott getting jealous, low key, about
See,
Jean worrying about her dumb football boyfriend.
yeah, they have a love triangle that goes on these first 2 seasons, and Duncan go ahead. Oh my god, go
No,
ahead.
no, go.
Mm.
Go, Duncan, what?
Duncan he's a mess. He's a teenage boy, that's all I'm gonna say. He's a teenage boy.
I get that.
That's
I
it.
get that.
That's it.
And so, at this point, it kind of like, I guess, pans to like the next day.
Mhm.
And, of course, we're
Well,
brought to this
no,
point.
not the next day. It's still night because
It is?
Professor X and Aurora pick up Nightcrawler, because that's where they're on the way
Okay.
to go. Mhm.
I
That's
didn't
why
know that it was night when they picked him up from the train station. For some
mhm.
reason, I thought it was the next day.
Yeah, that's why they're in the car and everything.
You're
Mhm,
right. You're right.
mhm.
So yeah, as Kaiser said, at that point,
Yeah, I've seen this
Professor
episode
X
so much, so I'll be like, yeah.
At this point, Professor X is picking up Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler, from the train station to be brought back to Xavier.
Mhm.
Is it like it's a school, right? Or is it technically
Yes.
just a house?
No, it's a school. They teach them there how to use their powers. They
Okay, I
call
thought
it
so.
Xavier Institute. Mhm.
Okay, I thought so, but I didn't want to say that because I was like, they're going to school though. So like,
Yeah,
I
so
was
it's
like, is it
both.
is it school in
It's
this one?
it's silly, right? It's silly because you have a school here, right? And you don't you do go to the school, but you also go to this other school. It's weird because in the
Mm-hmm.
X-Men comics, they're just, like, all in the Xavier Institute. But if you didn't have them going to, like, that public school, then you wouldn't have the other, like, human interactions, and you wouldn't have, like, the outer world, like, a place where they can go outside of it. So it makes sense as to
Yeah,
why they put them in a different school too at the same time. It is
yeah,
silly though.
yeah. So then I guess that's when we go to the next morning where of course Jean and Scott are getting ready to go to school when Professor X asks to
No,
see them.
no, not me
Yes,
having
it
to fix it.
is.
They're not going to school, they're going out to go hang out, and then
Hey y'all, this is post editing Kaiser, okay? Um, Not post editing, but editing Kaiser, okay? And let me tell you, I have to admit something. I was wrong and Sabrina was right. They were going to school. Scott Summers had a whole backpack on his back. And I am ashamed because I've seen this episode about 1,000,000 times and never even thought that they were going to school. I thought they were going shopping or something. But then I see he have a backpack. Oh, it's so annoying. Oh my gosh. Oh, and you know what? I also found out yesterday that I have strep throat. Mm-mm-mm. So now, if you hear me having difficulties talking, which I did in this episode, no, it's because I have strep throat. And now it's being healed, you know, by my mutant abilities. So I guess for once, Sabrina Cussinggill was correct. Thank you for listening to this message.
and so she
Where
was
are they going
taking
to hang
too
out?
long.
We don't even
I
see
think they
them
were
to
going
hang
to,
out.
like, the movies or something, I forget, but, he was like, "Gene,
Are
you're
you
taking too
sure?
long." Yeah, because she was brushing her hair and everything. They were gonna leave without their
I thought they
backpack
were
and stuff.
getting ready to school because the next scene after them being introduced to Kurt is them back at school.
Yeah, later on, but they weren't going to school.
Doesn't make sense to me, Kaiser.
I watched the episode so
Like,
many
what is this
times.
time? What is this time gap? What is this time gap? Why
'Cause
are they
you
getting ready to go somewhere and then the next scene is them in school?
'Cause they're using that to introduce them to Kurt, right? Because he was like, "We're gonna be late." So, you know what? Maybe they are going to school, but in my head, I never watched that scene and thought, "Man, they're going to school." You
Because
know what I mean?
I
I
like,
thought they were
as
going to the
somebody who
movies or
has, like,
something.
younger brothers and, like, a younger sister, I didn't never took a lot of time, but I always remember being like, "Girl, you better finish brushing your hair and brushing your teeth. We gotta go to the bus. We gotta get to school."
Then why
Like,
was she
"Come
being
on,
all
they driving us."
flirtatious, trying to look her best, you know?
Because
What's that?
the stereotype for high school girls was that, they gotta take all this time to get ready. Women gotta take all this time to look good, to go out for what reason?
Mm. I
That's a
don't think they
stereotype.
were going to school, but if you think they're going to school, well, for your sake, we'll
Then
just,
why was there no movie scene? Why did they go straight to
why
school
didn't
in the
they
next
have their
scene?
backpacks? Because every time they go to school on the show, they usually have their backpacks on them, so
Oh my god. Whatever, Kaiser. Anyway, so they meet Kurt, and it's revealed that his like mutation, I guess if you will, is revealed that obviously he's blue, and they even have a moment where he's a little skittish and ends up teleporting, and to give us like the sneak peek of his like what makes him a mutant.
Kurt is so
And of
cute.
course, they're cool about it. Like they're excited to see him. And obviously Kurt's just a little nervous because he's never probably been met at this point with that kind of acceptance
Mhm.
that he's experiencing at the Xavier Institute.
Scott was a little
Um,
bit, ooh, but Gene was very, like he was surprised because he only had 3 fingers, though, like,
yeah.
so mhm. And,
Anyway,
also, the scene before that, they did a scene with Wolverine too, 'cause,
yeah, right. Him at the
mhm,
market in the woods, looking
yeah,
at the newspaper, like, man, something's funky in the air. Little
mhm,
cowboy townish,
mhm,
and then he takes off on his motorcycle, like
mhm,
acting all gruff,
mhm.
going into town.
Yeah, I like Wolverine, he's fun, and you saw Sabretooth too. You saw Sabretooth
Yes,
in the
peeking at him
tree.
in the distance. Yeah.
Mhm, peeking at him in the distance. That comes in the next episode. So, everybody just watch X-Men Evolution, the full show, like, just do that. I'm
Yeah, or
sorry
else you'll
'cause
be
of
as lost as I am.
yeah. Uh, this is the first episode you lost because you decided to skip the intro of the show, but, we're not
I'm
going there.
sorry.
We're not going
No, I'm still confused about how they get from one place to another with, your timeline.
in my timeline, she was just
Mm,
brushing her hair. They never even said what they were gonna go. He was just, like, real late, and they
okay.
were just, like, cruising. Teenagers go out and just have fun on the weekends. Why couldn't it take
I
place on the
never did.
weekend? Because like, football games never take place in the middle of the week. They take place on Fridays, and
Mhm.
then you have
On,
your
like,
weekend,
sometimes.
I guess.
Okay. Anyway, back at school, Toad is being drilled by the principal
Mhm.
to, like, or I assume she was the principal. They never specified. She looked
She
like
is
a
the
school
principal.
administrator.
She's no,
Like,
she's principal, whatever her last name, I forget. But she's the
yeah.
principal.
Anyway, she's like asking about Scott and telling him like, "Oh, well, your friend Summers went ahead and helped you under the bleachers, right? Like, you need to go figure out like what his deal is because obviously something's not right." And obviously at this point, Toad is like openly showing that he's basically implied that he's a mutant. So he's definitely showing his Toad like qualities, hence his name Toad. And at this point, he's kind of like not giving a flying f
You
anymore.
don't
Well, like
care.
who sees or notices? Like he's just hopping around, climbing in chairs, being all slimy.
Yeah.
And so she basically tells him, "You need to find out more. Like, get on it." And of course, like while this is happening, Kurt is being given his room at the Xavier Institute, and he's like just again in awe that like, "Oh my gosh, this room is for me. Like it's mine." And they even give him a device. If I remember correctly, it's like the watch that gives him
Yeah.
his like like human, quote unquote, like his
Mhm.
regular person skin,
Yeah.
if you
So
will,
it's
that allows him to go around and about.
Yeah, it's called the image inducer, and so it changes his image in that way. He
Yeah.
has it in the comic books too, but he gets rid of it pretty quickly. In this show, he's not really confident about his mutant looks or whatever. Though I think Kurt is really just he's really cute, but like, he
I
has his
loved him
image
too.
inducer.
Like
Yeah.
he's my favorite, like, across, like, the media. I think he's, like, my favorite X-Men.
I hear a lot of people say that. A lot of people love Kurt Wagner and just like the outside media of X-Men. If you really even if you don't read the comics, people just love him. Especially but in the comics, he's suave, he's smooth, he gets all the ladies, and you know why, okay? I don't care. But he is an amazing
My
character.
man.
He's great. So, yeah. But they give him the image inducer. While they do that, and, they tell him, "Accept yourself, this is only for the human." How do you feel about that? Wait, I
Like what?
wanna ask you that because they give him the image inducer so he can fit in more with humanity. Like, socially and, like, mentally, I guess. How do you feel? Was that a good idea for them to do that for him? I mean
So, like, I get why they did it, and, like, for
mhm,
him also, you could tell, like, the moment he got it, it gave him that sudden boost of confidence, of liking that self, but I do think it was a little bad in the sense that it kind of encouraged him to, he already felt a sense of shame in his
mhm,
true self, and I feel like just giving him that object, like, further pushed him away from acceptance maybe of his true self,
Mhm.
which I, to an extent, dislike, which I understand why they did it. Like, again, for high schoolers and people in that age group, image can be a lot for them, it can mean a lot. It's why, like, like, the stereotypical teen wants to look good, have all this stuff, and they do it because they wanna be accepted by those around them. So I get why, like, in their minds, it was probably, like, they thought they were helping him. They were like, "We're giving you a chance to be able to interact with other people," and to an extent, they're right. They're protecting him because if he walked out like that and went to school with the rest of the students, I'm sure there would be a definite issue and an
Mm.
isolation and alienation by normal people. But at the same time, I feel like there should have been, like, maybe a I say a grace period where he entered the Xavier Institute, maybe where he was given the chance and, like, the help to love himself as he was, and then maybe received the bracelet and understood the reality of that, like, he needed to love and accept himself as he was before he went to just try and change himself to fit in.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that, like, yeah, it's okay to do this for the sake of your safety, to fit in temporarily, but in the long run, you have to come to love yourself and accept yourself first.
Mhm.
I think should have been the lesson rather than him just being so excited to be a white dude.
Yeah. Right? White dude. But I
A
will
white dude.
say they do deal with that later on in the show, but
Okay, I didn't know that,
mhm.
but
No, but I just want to know your opinion because I want to see how you thought about that. Because the
yeah.
more I watch the show, the more I, like, start thinking about. Because when I was younger, I didn't really think about that, but, like, the older I get, I'm like, like, why do that? Or why is he so excited? And what are the mental implications of that for you later in life? Will
Mhm.
you still try to continue to rely on that image inducer, or will you start to accept yourself? So I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting, for his character. It's an interesting arc for his character to go on. Oh, I love this show so much, Sabrina.
Oh, we know, we know, we know. This was me last week, Steven Universe. Now you with the mutants. I said, "We're good. We're doing great."
When I was little, I wanted to be a mutant so bad. I wanted to have
I
telekinesis and
think we all
telepathy
did.
so
If you
bad.
watched X-Men, you wanted to be a mutant.
Yes. You ever had those moments where you're just, like, looking at something, trying to get it to move with your mind? Just,
No.
like, stare long enough, hopefully that cup moves. I hope I have telekinesis. Like, trying to
Like,
read
so that
somebody's
was
brain.
your see, that's the different kind of mutants we wanted to be, okay? You wanted telekinesis.
Uh-huh.
I thought I was gonna be Gambit and just start throwing
Stuff,
throwing stuff.
and then explodes and stuff,
Floats?
causing damage, you know?
Yes, I thought it was so cool. I, like, legit tried to, like, learn how to throw the cards, you know? I thought
It's
I
cool.
was gonna master it. I thought it
Mhm,
was something I could train myself to do.
mhm. I tried to control the weather so much. I'm like, "It's gonna rain, it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain."
Eh,
That one you can fool yourself doing it because if you hear, like, a little bit of thunder or whatever, you can be like, "Rain, come down right now," then the rain could just possibly come, and you can fool yourself enough to think that you can control the weather, like
Kaiser becomes the weatherman.
right, so, that one could seem a bit more possible than telekinesis. Because if you try to lift something up with your brain, like throw a person into a wall or something, there's a possibility that it just might not happen, right? But if you
Might not.
right, but if you call upon lightning to, like, strike a tree or something, it might just happen. It might just happen if you time it correctly, you know what I mean? So, being a mutant, I still wish I was a
No.
mutant. But then now I think about it, I'm like, as soon as you have superpowers, the government will be, like, right on you. Like, you will be like, as soon as they
FBI
see
open
something
up for
right,
real.
they wouldn't say anything, they'll just grab you and take you away, I promise you, they would do that. So, thank the Lord that we don't have any superpowered beings within our you know what? Because the CIA probably took them.
I was gonna
Mm,
say, you never know. Don't put it
mhm.
out there. I still believe in everything.
CIA took them already. Mhm, mhm. Where
Anyway,
were
I guess
we?
back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point, again, back in the school, Toad and Scott end up meeting up in the hallway, and of course, like at this point, like most of the people are gone, so they're alone. And Toad decides, I guess, to confront Scott. Basically, he jumps on top of the lockers, obviously, again, not hiding the fact anymore that he is a mutant, and he ends up stealing Scott's glasses and taunting him with like, I know what you can do, just like you, I'm sure you can assume what I can do. Um, and he kinda starts to try and play, like, buddy-buddy after, like, tossing Scott back his glasses. But, obviously, Scott is smarter than that and kinda, like, senses that this dude ain't in for good business. So he's kinda like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, like, let's maybe catch up later. I have to go to class." Or, like, "I gotta go somewhere." and he kinda leaving Toad with, like, nothing, which is what his mission was to go find out anything he could
He gotta
relating to Scott.
fly.
Yeah, and a slimy little tongue too, but we
Yeah.
don't need either of that.
Mm-mm.
Delicious.
Sabrina, you eat flies?
No.
You got a long tongue? Did you ever wanna be told when you were little?
No. Anyway. So, of course, in that moment too, Professor X is alerted by Cerebro that, there's a mutant, present or whatnot. It's like there's an anomaly in a sense in the, school,
Who could it
which
be?
we as, like, the viewer know it's Toad. And so, of course, he bumps into, Storm and
He does
basically
yeah.
says that he wants her to interview/test him to see.
Storm can I talk about how beautiful Storm is? She's just so
Another
beautiful.
tangent in this long ass episode.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Storm is so beautiful. I would turn this into a two-part, I'm not gonna lie. I love me some Storm. They do her I'm not gonna say how they do her in the show. They kinda do her dirty because she doesn't really have episodes in the show. She's always there, and they use
She's
her
like
as, like,
the
a teacher.
instructor. Like, they use her as, like, a
Yeah. So, like, I hate that, right? Because I feel like if they made Storm a teenager, they would have done so much better. Because there was this person I saw the other day. I think they're Sway Art. They're Sway Art. Let me search them up, make sure.
Hey everybody, it's Editing Kaiser again. So I think I found out the name because I say it again later in the podcast, but I mispronounce it. I think it's Shea. Shea_art. How do you spell that? SEYE_ART. Yeah, so if I mispronounced your name and you somehow happen to hear this, sorry. But your art is beautiful and you inspire me. That's great because as someone who graduated college for art and yet hardly makes any art, it's good to see other artists still making their art. Also, I forgot, he was on Super Saturdays, a comic book media podcast. Go listen to that. That was a fun episode. It was called Justice for Toad. Yeah. Bye.
They're on Twitter. I forgot who the name is. I'm gonna put their name in later on post. But they do some amazing art, and they did some X-Men Evolution art, and they did it that this Storm was also a teenager with the other teenagers. Her storyline would have been on point. But what they do is they give her nephew, who is Spike. How you have two black X-Men. So they have her nephew, because in this universe she has a sister. In the comics and like everywhere else, she's like the only person because she was the only child, and her parents are dead or whatever. That's how she ends up in Africa because she was born in America, right? And her mom was like an African princess too, I believe. But they give her a nephew in the show. And so basically that's where her storylines usually come from him. And so she really doesn't have really much to do besides use her powers and be like an instructor that like kind of gives advice. But besides that,
I wish
get
they had
'em
made her, like, a college student, so, like, still in that young
Mhm,
adult phase, so, like, she could
mhm,
be with the group, but, like, at the same time, still adult enough to be able to, like, be that
mm,
right hand for
yeah.
Professor X.
Yeah, because
But,
see, and I don't like that, her being a right hand for Professor X. She needs to be the leader of the team, I think. She needs to be, like, the leader. Her and Scott need to, like, lead. And also in the comic books, her and Jean Grey are, like, besties. They're sisters, basically.
yeah.
And so you miss out on that relationship too. Like, her and Jean have their moments, but it's different because it's kinda almost like this older adult to this younger teenage girl. And I know, like, Storm in here, she's probably, like, in her 20s or whatever, but it's like
Yeah.
it's
They
you
make her,
know
like, old. They make her feel like a
Mhm,
fully grown adult when I feel like she could
mhm,
have been with the in a sense, the kids.
yeah. But she's cool still. She has great she shows off her powers in this show too. Not at her most powerful, but whatever, but she's cool in this episode.
Yeah,
And so
and yeah.
yeah, and so, basically Toad ends up coming to the house because obviously, from what I could tell, they knew that he was gonna come, right? They could tell because he was talking to Scott. Scott told him about him. They had an idea that Toad knew about who they were and that he was gonna come and visit the institute, eventually. And so that's when Storm gets ready. And so when he's like trying to like sneak around outside, that's when Storm starts calling the weather and starts striking him. I mean, almost striking him with lightning, which I feel like is a amazing. It's just like a really funny scene because he's just like jumping. All of a sudden, you see this lightning bolt come straight at him, and then he gets knocked into the house by like the wind. The wind just blows him like through the doors or whatever, and that's when he runs into Nightcrawler, and a fight ensues between them. And they're arguing. They automatically just don't like each other. And I'm trying to figure out like what was Professor X like. I get that he was trying to like get him to fight to like see if he had mutant abilities or whatever. But what if he
Mhm.
wasn't a mutant? So if he wasn't a mutant and of course you knew he was a mutant because Cerebro, but he was trying to test his abilities, right? He was trying to make sure that he was a mutant from what he said. So it's like Storm just throwing his kid all around the house for like no reason. You know what I mean? Like, come
Yeah.
on. Think
It was a
through.
little like, bro, he's jumping around like a frog. If he ain't a mutant, I'd
Mhm.
be concerned
Mhm.
clinically.
Because I'm like,
Uh,
you already got these kids that you're training or whatever. Do you really want a lawsuit against you to where you beating up some like teenage
and
kid?
they ruined like the whole house. Like
Right.
Nightcrawler is just running
Mhm.
and like Toad is mad chasing after him. They're just
Mhm.
breaking everything.
And then he
And
ends up
yeah.
teleporting them into the danger room by mistake.
Yeah. Not a
And
smart plan.
mhm. Good thing Gina and Scott were there because the professor telepathically contacts them and he's like, they're in a danger room. Get in there. You gotta save them. And that's where you see more of their powers too. You can see Jean like can fly, and you would have seen that in the intro if you watched it. But you can see like Jean can fly and stuff, and you seeing them
Salty?
in
Salty
action.
much?
Yeah, and of course, there's a lot of like Kurt thinks. I mean, he thinks that he figures out what's going on with the danger room, and so he goes in there because it has automatic systems on, which is
Yeah,
also
defenses.
it's smart, but it's also kinda stupid. So, like, when do you keep those on? For how long do you keep those on? Because what if somebody, like, wanders in there by mistake and then all of a sudden they getting shot up? You know what I mean? Because I get it
Well,
if
I'm
somebody
sure
come.
that's different. I'm
Mhm.
sure it was only activated because they just suddenly teleported into the center of the room like a
True.
break-in. I
Yeah,
feel
that
like if
makes
they
sense.
walked in through a door, there's probably like some kind of verification process to
Mhm.
get in. So
Yeah,
then it's like, "Oh, defenses are down."
that makes
But
sense.
they just
Mhm.
popped in there.
Mhm. And, of course, Gene and Scott go and save them, but then Kurt pulls a plug, and then it all goes haywire, and that's when the amazing Storm, the ever beautiful goddess who is amazing in all forms and self, comes in and saves the day by, like, striking the thing with lightning, and then it's over.
Yeah. But of
Um
course, like, obviously that makes Nightcrawler feel, like, ashamed. He feels like, he's not meant to be there and that he's failed this, like, important test,
Mhm.
that, like, in reality was an accident. But, of course he's taking all this blame on himself, and
Yeah.
Toad uses this chance to escape only to bump into Logan on his way out, who scares him even more, and, they let him go anyway, even though he
Mhm.
passed the test, but obviously he didn't wanna stay. And then, of course, Scott and Kurt have this beautiful moment of, like, right next to the, what
Blackbird.
was it? Yeah. I was gonna
Mhm.
say, I couldn't remember the name of the jet, but,
Yeah.
Scott basically asks Nightcrawler, obviously, to join the team. He's
Mhm.
like, "You can do this. Like,
Mhm.
you wanna fly it one day?" And, of course, he says
That's how you
yes,
get a
and he joins
teenager
the
to join the
team.
team. "You wanna fly a plane?" "Sure."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, "You wanna one day fly this giant plane?"
Right. You don't need a license.
Yeah. Just a friendship.
Right.
Friendship and money to pay for the gas bill.
Right, no, right. Professor X does all that for us. Like, where does Professor X get all this money? I need to know. But, you know, later on, Mystique ends up yelling at Toad, and she's like, "You are a failure. How blah 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 this." Oh, I said Mystique. I just
Well,
reveal who the
yeah, I was about to
principal is.
say, yeah, principal reveal. It's
The prin
Mystique.
It's Mystique. The principal's Mystique, and she's yelling at him because he's a failure, and then she kicks him out, and Magneto's like, "Let's not be too hard on him." It's Magneto at the end of the episode because I'm just revealing everybody's identities. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Because the magnetism and stuff, he's like, "Don't be hard on him because we don't have many people in our ranks or whatever." And, it's only the beginning, cause that's the end of the episode, and at one point, Mystique, when she's threatening Toad, I forget what point in the episode, she turns into, like, this weird creature
Yeah,
to,
the
like,
monster.
scare
It's
him. Mhm.
which kinda hints at it, but in my brain, like, for some reason, I didn't immediately think of Mystique. For some reason, I was like, "Oh, like, is this just some, like, other evil entity that I don't know about?" But then, like, by, like, continually seeing her eyes, I kinda was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense."
Mhm, mhm. So, Sabrina, how'd you feel about episode 1, Strategy X? What are your thoughts?
I thought it was cute, like a nice little beginner. Um, Not my favorite of the 3, just
Mhm,
'cause, we got some the next one is my favorite. But I definitely think it was it was a nice start, a nice
Mhm.
intro to this world.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm still a little confused,
What are you
but at
confused
the
about?
same
Oh, that scene?
just our argument earlier.
Yeah, I'm telling you, but we'll say they were going to school. We'll say they were going to school.
Okay,
They were
okay,
gonna
okay.
hang
So we're
out.
saying I'm right. Okay, I like this a
You're
lot.
not right, but I'm making you feel right. Just
Whatever you say, whatever you say.
how many X-Men out of 5?
Ooh, let's go 4 out of 5.
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah, and the only reason it loses an X is because, obviously it's first episode, it's meant to be this way, but it's a little basic.
mhm,
And again, in the beginning, like you said, I didn't watch the opening, so maybe I would have found out more people's names, but I felt like in this first episode, because I didn't, know everybody, I was a little confused.
mhm,
To an extent, I knew who people were by, their character to an extent from what I remember previously watching the other X-Men series. But, there were times where I was like, "Okay, we're here, we're there. Wait, what's this dude's name?"
mhm, mhm. Which is understandable, because it is the first episode. I will say X-Men Evolution compared to, like, the other 2 X-Men anime shows, their first episodes are a bit more intense because they, like, jump out
Yeah.
straight out the gate with, like, Sentinels and Wolverine and X-Men, the Institute explodes, and then Professor X and Jean Grey are missing, and the X-Men are broken up and all that stuff. So this one is, like, the really is the most tame beginning X-Men episode that you'd see out of all the X-Men shows. And that's kind of why I like it. I just love the X-Men as teenagers too. Like I just really love that aspect. Of course, I'm kind of scared because I'm biased. You know what I mean? So I'll be like 5 out of 5 for every episode. This episode's a 4. Yeah, it's a 4. It's a 4 out of 5 X-Men. Obviously because there are better episodes, but we're doing these episodes just like based on what we see or whatever. But I've seen the
Yeah.
whole show, so I'm trying not to be super biased with this, since I watch it every year. But I like this episode. It's not my favorite episode. It's one of my favorites, like favorite episodes to like start the show.
Mhm.
But I just it's probably just because I know the characters and stuff and their dynamics, and so like watching it and knowing how they're gonna evolve and stuff is really great. And so the next episode is Walk on the Wild Side, season 3, episode 13. I'll let you start it off. I'll let you start off and
Okay.
go from there.
Okay. So it opens out with Scott going down an elevator to what I presume is this underground training facility,
Mhm,
cave-like structure.
mhm,
And there he witnesses Jean mentoring a younger mutant named Amara.
mhm,
School-wise, I imagine, Jean being, that junior, senior level student, while, Amara maybe is, a freshman, just starting
mhm,
out,
yeah.
that she's taken under her wing, and they're training. And, for those of you who don't know, because I didn't know before this, Amara's special power is, obviously, I guess heat, flame, well, I don't know
Yeah,
technically.
so Amara is like Heat and Flame, but she can also kinda, like, control the earth. Her
Okay.
Magma is her X-Men name, so
Okay, that
that
makes
name
sense.
kinda gives you, like, what her
Yeah.
powers can do. So it's not just it's kinda like Human Torch, but it's also kinda like controlling, like, the ground type of thing too,
Yeah.
being able to do that
Which
type of stuff.
we're kinda given the hint of as,
Mhm,
Jean kinda levitates these rocks
mhm,
and, Amara, condenses them into this pathway,
mhm,
which it wasn't perfect, but Jean was like, "This is great because you're showing progress," even though Amara feels, a little less confident because she feels like it wasn't perfect.
mhm,
And in that moment, though, while Scott is, kinda watching them from a distance, he calls Jean saying that, they have to start getting ready to go. Um, and of course, miraculously, a boulder starts falling from the air. And
mhm,
of course, Jean, in this moment, fully prepared, saves it, catches the boulder, only for Scott to use his laser eyes to explode it, causing it to be not as smooth and almost hurting them.
mhm.
And of course, Scott is like, "Oh yeah, you're welcome. I saved y'all, the damsels
Which
in
was in
distress."
distress.
And of course, the girls are mad because Jean had it under control.
Right,
And
she did catch
of
it.
course, it was not done purposely. I'm sure in his head he wasn't purposely trying to be demeaning, but it was kind of like he thought they couldn't handle it themselves because they were women. And so of course the girls are mad and they storm off to their rooms while Scott's following after, not really understanding what he's done wrong. And it kinda, sets the tone for this episode of, the idea of, women empowerment, the beginnings
Mhm,
of,
mhm,
unrest amongst the women in the team who feel like maybe they aren't as, respected, in the team because 'cause they're women.
mhm,
And then this jumps to, the villain domain is what I called it. I haven't seen the series, so I don't even know where this is, but I assumed it's like the opposite school. Like, we have the Xavier Institute. I
It's
assumed this was the Magneto school of
No, it's not the
like,
Magneto School, it's just a house they live in.
oh,
That was a
halfway
house
house.
that so Mystique lived there, and then she brought them all in to live there too,
Okay.
whatever, and they junkified that house so much
Oh,
after she left.
okay. That's what I thought. I was like, man,
Yeah.
this place looks like a wreck.
Yeah.
And of course, we see. I called her Blondie Boom Boom.
Mhm.
Cause chaos in the
Body
house.
Boo
She
Boo.
Yeah, she busts into the bathroom while Toad's taking his one shower a week to
Mhm,
steal his mouthwash, and then
mhm.
goes to leave, steals the car keys of another character, and takes his Jeep to school, just, living life, like, by her own means, like, just
Did
beating to her own drum,
did you
being
know
like
that
a
was her mutant name, or did you just say Boom Boom?
so I called her a different name, but
Mhm,
later on, I was like, that's not proper for the podcast, so I'm just gonna. I know her name is Boom
mhm,
Boom,
Boom Boom,
and
okay.
so I was like, yeah, let me just call her Blondie
Tabitha.
Boo Boo. Yeah.
Mhm. I like her. She every time she comes in, she just causes, like, chaos for no reason. And I'm like, I
So I like her, but at the same
Mhm,
time, I hate how excessive she can be sometimes.
mhm, yeah,
And that's the only thing I dislike, just because it's like, I feel like it's a little too much. But that's
mhm,
just me. Like,
mhm,
as a character, I love her, but, like, if
mhm.
she was on my team, I'd be like, "Yo, you
Yeah.
need to go."
Yeah. That's the point of her character. That's why she left the X-Men. So she ended up leaving the
Yeah.
X-Men and then going to live with the Brotherhood, because they were just like annoyed, like, it's too excessive. She is
Yeah.
she's a fun, like, if I knew her in real life, she probably annoy the heck out of me, right? But
Yeah.
as a character that I'm watching on TV, I enjoy it because she just causes chaos, and I'm okay with that because I'm not there.
I agree. So of course, Amara is at school in the classroom. Like, she's kind of like what is like to be implied is like your good, like, quiet kid.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, Tabitha kind of like busts in the room, like,
Jamming.
and yeah, like they like, doing her own thing, and like she meets Amara, and she's like, "Oh, how are you?" Like, and of course, Amara like admits to like the pressure of her learning and how she feels like she's not there yet. But Tabitha's like, "Well, why are you worried about it? Like, maybe you need to let go a little. Like, you need to be a little less tense.
Mhm.
Like live a little on the wild side,
Mhm. Yeah, she also
And
say Jean is pushing her a bit. I
yeah,
like that little point I like Jean's character in this episode because Jean gets a little fiery in this episode, but Jean in the show is also kinda like Miss Perfect. Everybody sees her as Miss Perfect. So I love when
yeah,
you have the moments of Jean, because I was gonna pick another episode besides this one. It was gonna be one that focused on Jean, but I decided I like this because I love this episode. It's my favorite episode of the show. But, Jean is just like she's a very interesting case in this character. I mean, in this show, because just like, especially compared to the '90s show where she was useless. My horse just fell out every single time she used her powers. Scotch! Oh,
I know
that's all
that
you
was like the one
heard.
thing I didn't care for. That's why I liked Gambit and Rhodes so much in the
Mhm,
original. I didn't care
mhm,
about nobody else. But anyway, yeah. So they basically decide to leave school, and Tabitha's like, "Let's go, let's get out of here." And who else sees them as they're like, making their getaway, but Scott and Jean, and they want to go stop her, but of course Scott kind of starts acting a little misogynistic again. Saying how, they'll go get in his car and he'll chase after them and she's gonna
mhm,
have to worry about it. And then of course Jean starts getting irritated, only for
mhm.
Duncan to also walk up and be like, "Hey, I bought our
Dude,
ticket to the
the
Sadie
Sadie
Hawkins
Hawkins
dance."
dance, like, the dance where
Yeah.
girls are supposed to ask the guys?
Yeah.
What?
And she was
I
like, "Aren't girls supposed to ask guys to those?"
Mhm,
And
mhm,
him being stupid, he didn't get the
yeah,
hint. And so
yeah,
she storms off and
mhm.
steals Scott's car.
I get what he was doing, because by this point they were dating, but, like, yeah,
Mhm.
but this was the wrong day for you to be buying tickets to the Sadie Hawkins dance for
Yeah,
Jean, because
wrong
she's like,
day.
"This is the wrong day." She is not for it, she is not for the men today. This is not Jean's men era, like, the men out of X-Men, right? So, like, move,
Yeah.
so I love her
Yes.
in this episode. She just
So she chases after them on, her own.
Mhm,
And at that point, it's Tabitha and Amara in the car. They're driving a little recklessly. And while they're at a red light, they see these carjackers take a gentleman's vehicle. Like, just the guy gets out to, if I remember correctly, isn't he they rip him out the car, right? If I remember correctly at the red light. Just continue. They see the
mhm,
carjacking and decide to
yeah,
chase after them because one of the guy
yeah,
kind of makes like a little like he kind of hits on Tabitha, like,
Mhm.
he winks at her and gives her like the ick face is what I like to call it, like, the snide dirtbag, like, oh yeah, you want me kind of face
Yeah,
at
'cause it
Tabitha, and that makes her mad. So anyway, the girls chase after them, like Tabitha saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to stop them." Totally not, because the dude just made a nasty face at me.
Mhm.
And they chase after him. Of course,
Turns out
Jean
they were
joins the
actually criminals
chase.
though, so
Yeah. So, but they end up destroying the car is the
mhm,
sad part. Amara and Tabitha end up wrecking the car, just in time for Jean to stop by and actually put restraints on the guys and make a getaway.
mhm.
And this kind of starts the beginning of the girls' era, is what I called it.
The
Um, you
ex-women.
know, like having fun and kicking ass, and like they
Yeah,
end up like picking up other members
and
of the X-Men group to join their Bayville Sirens
that
group.
music video was iconic. It was iconic. It was
It was
iconic.
iconic, but it's so cringe looking at it now.
Mhm. No, do you know
It's
that they
like,
took
oh.
a lot of those scenes from, like, teen movies? You know the scene where they're walking in the hallway looking at each other? You ever seen The
Yes, yes, I
Craft?
did.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, that scene I love. It's so cringeworthy, it's so iconic. The dancing is so, like,
It's
they
so
just pick up
cringe, but I
me
can't
and
hate
roll.
it.
Right. It's so you know what it is? It's like early 2000s girl power. You know,
Yes, yes
it's
it is. Yes
Spice
it is.
Girls, it's Charlie's Angels, the movies that came
Yes.
out. That's the energy that it gives, right? Um,
100%.
which kind of makes this episode problematic and a bit dated too. So, but
Yeah, yeah.
but it's
But
like
yeah, they make the Bayville Sirens, and of course, they think they're doing great, women power, but the city itself like wants to stop them and see them as a bunch of
mhm.
vigilantes.
They're giving that Spider-Man Batman energy.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Probably
yeah,
worse because there are a whole bunch of women too.
yeah. They gotta hit on women. But anyway, of course, like Scott ends up seeing or hearing about the girls, and because somebody makes a comment about how it's almost like they have powers, and so Scott is
He
like,
puts
"Man, I
2 and
have to
2 together.
investigate."
Yeah, he
And
puts
so
2 and 2
he
together.
gets
His man brain work.
Kurt. Yeah, him and Kurt decide they're gonna try and check and see if it's the girls, and lo and behold, they catch them trying to sneak out and hopping into Tabitha's Jeep again that she stole.
And Jean
Um
sees them,
from
of course. Mhm.
Yeah, so she puts 2 and 2 together, and they
Oh,
manage to outrun the boys and change.
I
Um
forgot the guy she stole it from. He's a character, a major character because he's part of the Brotherhood. I never told you his name. That's sorry, my voice.
okay.
That's oh Lord, now I forgot his name. Oh well,
He's the only good looking one there. I know. Okay,
he
trust me. That's all
is.
you know. That's all we need to know.
I forget his.
It'll hit you later, and you could
Yeah,
tell
he
me.
have a little romance with Kitty. That's all I can remember right now.
Feel that makes kind of sense.
Hmm.
Anyway, so lo and behold, after they've changed, what do they see but another carjacking at a meter? And so they follow it only to arrive at a secret chop shop where the car thieving ring is like taking place. And what is it? A trap.
It's a trap to trap them. Okay,
But these dudes are stupid because
right.
they did not know that they were messing with the X, like
Mhm.
the
They didn't even
these
have to
bastards.
use right, they didn't even have to use their powers, they most of the time, they just took
Well,
fucking butt.
Boom Boom definitely used her
Mhm.
powers.
Well, yeah, she exploded, like, sis, when you know you take it too
Yes.
far, I'm like,
Yeah, so it's like this cool women power, they beat 'em up scene, and, Kurt and Scott at some point show up, like, they find them, but then they're like, "You know what? I think we're gonna let the ladies handle it," and so they kinda just stand back. That is until they almost accidentally kill the leader
mhm,
of the ring in a car with gasoline, but Scott stops that, and he's like, "Just don't tell them I did that."
yeah, we're gonna talk about the end of this part, just go ahead, let's finish the episode. I have
Yeah.
something to say.
So, the cops show up, and of course, the leader is this female, like I guess detective, or I
Mm,
don't know what rank is, but she's the leader, and she's like, "Look, I see what you guys are trying to do here, but you guys need to stop. I'll let you guys go if you promise to disband." And of course, like, what choice do the girls have but to take up the offer? And they leave, and things kind of get resolved. For as far as the Bayville Sirens.
mhm,
And at the house, Jean and Scott end up meeting up again, and they split the last cookie in the cookie jar. And Scott kind of apologizes, like, and Jean thanks him for not stepping in and letting them, have their moment, because like it shouldn't have to be like that. I guess in my opinion, like it should just be presumed. Like you shouldn't have to let somebody have their moment.
yeah,
Like it shouldn't be like it's still kind of in a sense in his control, which is kind of I think dumb. But at the same time, like I get it. It's meant to be like they're a team. Like it's not like men being better, women being better. It's like the sense of equality that I guess that's what they were trying to do. But at the same time, I don't know if it was necessarily done the best. But,
Yeah.
they basically talk and said that they hope for a future where they can openly help people with their abilities, which kind of preludes to this final episode, I guess, that we watch.
So how'd you feel about this? How many X-Men out of 10?
Well,
5.
this was actually my favorite episode, so it's 5 X's for
It's
me,
I
but
feel
I
it's
was gonna say it's my favorite. I really liked the idea of, like, the women empowerment. I like the sass of each member. I like a lot of it. Like you said, it's a bit dated. There are certain things that obviously, in my opinion, I don't like, but it's like it was of the time, so I can't be mad at it. Like, for what it is, I think it's really good. Um, if I saw it recreated and it was the same exact episode and nothing was changed,
right.
I'd definitely be upset,
Yeah.
but,
Same.
I feel like for the time it was in, it was, like, a really good, like, beginning to, like, women, like, strong women.
Mhm. It's just a theme with X-Men that, like I always say, most people with their head on straight who read or watch X-Men know that the female characters are the best characters. They always get the coolest powers. They always have the best moments. They're always the ones saving the day. The men do it too, but, like, see, that's what I had a problem with this episode. First of all, though, let me say how funny it was that Mystique was just following them throughout the entire episode. She was the girl with the purple hair who actually shows up a lot in the show, but that's a spoiler, so I'm not gonna say that. But then she is also a police officer, and I just thought it was funny that she was just, like, on this mission, she's like, break them up, basically. She's just following them for, like,
Yeah.
what reason, I can't tell you. That was funny. The thing that got on my nerves, though, is when Scott was like, "Let's just let them have their moment and do it," and then he has to be the one to, like, prevent the car from being, like, exploding or whatever was gonna explode.
I get it was meant to be comic relief, like, it was meant to be like a hee hee moment, like, "Oh, shit," like, "Don't tell the girls." But it did, it kinda, like, undermined the purpose.
Yeah, and undermine
Like, it
what you just said, you just undermined it by doing what you and it's like, why just include that? Like, just let them take
yeah,
it makes no sense.
which I understand. But at the same time, like, it was, like, a little backhanded, which I know that wasn't their intention. It was meant to be funny of, like, "Ha like, we're gonna let them do it," and it's like, "Oh, shit, wait."
Mhm,
But at the same time, it was a little. Like I said, for its time, it was good. But,
mhm.
like, again, that's, like, one of definitely the spots I would probably change.
Yeah, I would've changed that too.
Or, like, maybe have it being something else, like,
Mhm.
smaller, where it's, like, maybe, like, they're about to catch on fire or something, like, stupid, and it's just between them, like, it doesn't affect the girls, like,
Right.
fighting.
Yeah,
Like, have it being, like, maybe they're just standing there, like, and the next thing you know, like, maybe right next to him, Nightcrawler, like,
mhm.
his clothes catch a little on fire, and it's like, "Oh, sh"
Yeah,
like, have
and
it
then
be that little
let it
moment.
out, right. Or if you're gonna have him do that, just put him in a fight. Just put him in a fight and then, like, have it like this guy girl working together. If you wanted it to be the, like, we're better when we work together, then just put him in a freaking fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
and, like, maybe have him, like, take the step back, have him be, like, in a sense, the sidekick role,
yeah.
like, just supporting them, like, saving their back and then helping, and then it being, like, this come together, like,
Mhm.
unity of the sexes, if you will,
Yeah.
moment.
I feel like they needed to choose a lane, and instead of choosing a lane, they were trying to, like, skirt in the middle. It's like, "No, either do this or do that." Like, you can't
Yeah.
be like, what's that Bible verse? Be hot or cold. Don't be lukewarm or you're gonna be spilt out. That's how I feel about this
Mm,
episode, you know?
mm. Yes,
This
but it's
episode, that
still it's
moment
still the
that
best one.
moment. Yeah. But, yeah, I love this episode. I love how fiery Jean was too. I
I
love
agree.
Right. I she was being kinda a B word, I'm not gonna lie, she was kinda being a B word, and that's what I love about Jean Grey the most, especially in the comics, is, like, she is a B word, she is Miss Perfect. She can be a B word, and she is, someone who thinks she's all good and stuff like that, she believes she's a really good person, but every now and then, like, the evil comes out of her, and I love it. Not that she was evil this episode, obviously not, but she was just, like like, kinda just, like, being
She was
upset,
something.
which was, granted, she had a reason to be upset, but, like, I just loved it that she was just, like, being mean. I love that. I love when she's just fiery, and because a lot of times when they portray Jean, she is Miss Perfect. She's like, you can't touch Jean Grey. She's, like, awesome, the most amazing. She can do no wrong, you know? And I just love in this episode where she's just like, she's human. She has the right to be angry, and she's choosing to be angry because they could have went the whole Miss Perfect route, and she would have been like, "Oh, it's okay, Scott, blah 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 blah," but they didn't do that, and I love that.
No, they let her be angry, which I feel like is what is needed.
Mhm.
But I just wish, like you said, I wish they hadn't half baked it. I feel like they were a little lukewarm.
Don't you just hate when water's lukewarm? Like, when you
Yeah.
the water when it's just, like, warm, like, when you have it in, like, a bottle, it's, like, warm at the top, but then when you get to the bottom, it's, like, cold or something, or vice versa. I hate that. That's the episode. But, yeah, this is still my favorite episode, so don't come at me. That's
We had a lot to say about it, but it was our favorite episode.
That scene was iconic. I love that scene. Sometimes I go back and watch it just to do and the animation on that scene was really nice too.
I agree.
Fluidity of, like, the movement, especially when they were dancing and walking down the hallway. Probably more the walking down the hallway one because they probably just, like, took the scene of the craft and kinda traced over it. They did some rotoscoping there, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But it was great. I loved it so much.
It's a good sticker idea.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, it is.
Anyway, I guess back onto our path, our track. The
Mhm.
final episode, The Stuff of Heroes, season 3, episode 2.
Mhm. So at this point, humans have found out about mutants. The first
Mhm.
episode before this, to give a preface so people know, the first 2 episodes, because season 3, episode 1, they're looking for Professor X, right? Professor X is missing. The Brotherhood and the X-Men have to work together because humans have now found out about mutants. Mutants have been exposed at the end of season 2, and they end up, like, trapping Mystique because
She
she
was the
did
one who hit Professor X, right?
yeah, she's the one who hit Professor X, right? And she knew something or something like that. So the X-Men are in hiding because the police are after mutants. They're coming, they shooting places up, they trying to get these mutants. And that's basically where we are, right? And so
Mhm.
since the humans find out the mutants, we see it from the perspective of, like, the news station, right? And then we see Rogue in the gas station watching the news. And she's talking about how fat she looked on the photo. I said, "Sis, you as skinny as a like, girl, sit
Well,
down."
my thing is, like, girl, you're on the run. Why did it
Right.
matter how you look in that photo?
Right. You like, how you look fat. Sis, you train every day, first of all. So, like, let's not even go there. Anyways, sis, the authorities end up in a gas station, and they recognize Rogue because I'm assuming it's because the white streaks in her hair, because nobody has hair like that, right? For the most part.
Mhm.
And, it's a fight, and Wolverine is taking them down, and she's, like, helping them, whatever. And I love the moment where she just goes out and runs towards that motorcycle and crashes it in the store, and then they end up, like, leaving. That was an awesome scene. I like X-Men Evolution fight scenes. They're really fun to watch.
Yeah.
And they're out of there, and I'm like, "Who gonna pay for that man's store?" Is what I'm gonna figure out. Is it gonna be
No.
a
Hey,
police,
insurance,
right?
insurance.
I guess, but does insurance cover all that? Like, do you expect,
Natural disaster? It
yes.
probably falls under robbery,
Mhm, I guess. They end up leaving out, and that's when we go to Congress, where Storm, the bad boss she is, along with,
beast,
Beast,
and
who is introduced, like, in season 2 or whatever. They come in to talk about, like, mutants and stuff, and to represent mutants and showing that mutants are good, to, like, battle against Congress so they don't, like, start putting mutants in, like, concentration camps and stuff, because they do that in America. They do it.
wait, what?
And on the other part, you also have Juggernaut. So, like, these 3 stories are all, like, coming together, and they all end up coming together. So you have, like, A plot with the X-Men, your B plot is, like, Juggernaut, and your C plot is, like, Storm and Beast trying to, like, represent the mutants. Juggernaut's
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
in, and, the authorities try to stop him, but he's, like, just jumps up, and they try to take him out, and there's, like, they can't do it, right? And it's like, "He's a mutant, he's a mutant." He's not a mutant. Juggernaut's not a mutant. We're not getting into that. Anyways, he's the main villain of the episode. So we go to the cave where, they're trying to see, like, they're trying to see the news so they can see what's going on with Storm and Beast. And Scott's being, like, a little negative Nancy. He's like, "We're not gonna make it through this," all that stuff. And Jean has to be, like, the positive one and put him in his place, kinda. She gotta put him in his place. 'Cause sis was like, Your negativity is not helping anybody. We gotta believe in what we set out to believe in, and we gotta make sure that we're being good, like, for the team and showing that mutants are good, right? And they have their moment where they might romance, stare in the eyes. They have that moment, but Nightcrawler ends up what? Don't
Nothing. I just didn't expect you to describe it like that. Shit.
you
Anyway.
they have a moment where they just look in each other's eyes, and that's when Nightcrawler interrupts. Scott's a little bit annoyed by that because they're about to have some kissy time, maybe. I don't know why you'd be start having kissy time in a cave.
Yeah, while you're on being hunted down.
Or you be down in front of all your friends too. Where's the popcorn though? And they end up finding a way to get the TV working. So you see some characters in here that you may not have seen yet. So you saw Nightcrawler, you seen Rogue, you seen Wolverine. But at this point, you as the viewer, Sabrina, since you only seen these 3 episodes, you never saw Spike yet. So Spike was
Mhm,
there, and of course Iceman
mhm.
joins them in this episode too. Iceman doesn't come till season 2, but like he ends up we're not getting into that. But yeah, so they're there and they're watching it on TV. They come up with like this creative way to like make it like this big screen TV, which is cute. You remember when TVs were like really big but had the back that were like 5 feet.
Yeah, the, like, hunky junky backs.
That's the type of TV I watched X-Men Evolution on in 2009. So, Logan and Rogue end up, escaping the authorities, and she's mistreating his motorcycle bad because this is just, like, going all but still, I would do it too because I'm like, "I need to get out of here."
Yeah.
The end
And
of
then they start getting chased by attack helicopters.
mm, tell me about it. I'm like, What's going on?" Like, "Okay."
Yeah, this much work for just Teen Mutants? Like, what's
Mhm.
wrong with y'all?
I guess they scared, and so the chop
Over excessive.
right. And the chopper surrounding the cave, and Jean, I think, is the MVP. So like, I find it funny because earlier in the show, Jean, you see she's able to levitate herself and pick up small things. But like the first season, she has trouble like picking up like multiple humans at the same time. Like she struggles. And like the 3rd episode that I just watched yesterday, she was struggling like holding herself, Cyclops and Storm up right at the same time. And in another episode, she was having trouble like holding Cyclops and Nightcrawler up at the same time. But then you get all the way to season 3 where she's taking choppers and just like bending the tops of the metal and like sending them down on the ground,
Yeah.
everything.
Well, and that was, like, a big point too, though, because, like, obviously when Logan and Rogue get back to the cave, there's this whole argument of, like,
Mhm.
how will they handle, like, the, army, the military, and, of course, Logan's like, "Oh, we gotta fight, we gotta prove our stance, like, who we are, fight for ourselves." Meanwhile, the rest of the X-Men are kinda just like, "No, no, no, let's handle this, like, dutifully, let's not use violence, let's not hurt anybody, and then let's just run away, let's leave." And so, of course, like, Logan gets mad and runs off, and that's when, the rest of the X-Men, like, basically handle it, like, amazingly. Like, they just handle it with defense, like you said, Jean ends up, like, bringing all the planes down and bending their,
Yeah.
like,
She has
propellers,
a
and then
proud
just they
moment.
just fly off.
I found Logan's stance interesting because I don't want to say it was out of character.
Mhm.
But I found it interesting that he just left them. I mean, he was probably in a bad mood, and I get the argument because they needed somebody to kinda, like, show
Like,
that
be
they
the
yeah, to be the
yeah.
oppositions. I'm not gonna say I thought it was wrong, but I just found that interesting, like, him
It
doing
was
that.
it's like it's in his nature, at least from what I've seen. I'm no
Mhm,
hardcore X-Men fan, but it's in his nature to be hot-headed. But
mhm.
I don't think it's in his nature to immediately jump to violence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think it's in his nature to immediately just, like, leave those kids. Either, like, he would just leave them there, like,
Yeah.
obviously, he knows that they can take care of themselves, but I'm not sure that he would've left them, like, but it was kinda contrived is what I'm trying to say, like, that part was kinda
Yeah.
contrived, it felt kinda off to me, you know what I
I
mean? Look at
agree.
me being critical of something I love. It felt kinda contrived, but anyways, they end up going on the choppers, like I said, Jean was the MVP, but everybody does things. I'm just like, it's Jean is the representation of X-Men Evolution from the when they show, like, the evolution part, because how her powers evolved from the beginning of the show to, like, the end of the show is amazing.
Yeah.
But, compared to X-Men the Animated Series, but we're not getting into that. We said that enough.
Mhm.
So they hear about Juggernaut, the news reporters hear about him, and he's, like, causing chaos on a dam, right? And,
Yeah. This is being used also at the same time against the mutants in court. Storm and Beast are trying to argue the point of mutants, and they're like, "Oh, you say that, but one of your people right now is busting up a dam, killing
right.
so many people."
Tell me why he points at Storm and beats and calls them atrocities. You calling a black woman, right? First of all, a black woman and the man who's not like Eurocentric atrocities. Let me
It
go
it
ahead
was,
and
like,
get there.
really crazy. It was like, "Oh my gosh, is if this isn't the pinnacle of American government, I don't know what."
Mhm. Mhm. People always talk about, like, people I'm like, "What X-Men do you read or watch?" When they say, "Bring me back to the X-Men that wasn't political." X-Men was always political. Let's get that straight. It literally is like the representation of, like, politicalness, talking about racism and stuff. There was never a point where X-Men was not political. Even when you had the beginning of X-Men, the original 5 white X-Men, Scott, Jean, Iceman, Beast, when he wasn't furry and blue, and Angel, all white, all teenagers, like, they were based on kinda, like, Jewish experiences of that time, and so, they didn't really focus on the mutant aspects much, right? There wasn't much racism going on as much as you see now in X-Men media, but it still was political from the very beginning. I'm just like, how can you not see X-Men? And the parts of the X-Men that people talking about is like the '70s and the '80s. I'm like, that's probably the pinnacle of the politicalness for the X-Men. Like, you have a literally diverse team, this black woman coming in, this, Native American coming in. You have, um, a Russian guy and somebody who is coming from like, all these different places, and you saying X-Men not political? We not getting into that. X-Men is political. Anyways, the teens, they see Juggernaut, and he's destroying the dam. The authorities try to stop him. Of course, they are unsuccessful. And that's when the X-Men come and save the day. What do they be doing, Sabrina? Explain it to us.
So, of course, like, there was the debate of, like, well, do they step in and take the chance of making it even worse for mutants, or do they step in and just do it anyway because they know it's right? And so, of course, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do it because it's what's right." And, they go ahead, they get there, and they kinda, like, devise a plan because, of course, I presume they'd fought Juggernaut before and were not successful. So he kind of mocks them. But they're like, "No, no, no, we're gonna do this. We're gonna make it happen."
Mhm,
Um, while, of course, in the beginning, like, they're all trying to fight him using their abilities to step in. And surprisingly enough, like, they're stronger than before, I presume. Jean
yeah.
is using this time while, he's distracted fighting the others to start bringing the water back into the dam,
Just holding
and
back
I believe.
the river the water is continuously Jean is so powerful,
Yes. Well,
girl.
not only just what's continuously falling, she,
Mhm.
like, it looks like she scoops up what had already fallen as well
Right.
and pushes it back into the dam, and then I believe you said his name was Iceman,
Mhm,
like, comes in and freezes it to fix the
mhm.
dam.
Super powerful
And
as
then, like
well.
I said, meanwhile, the rest are tackling, Juggernaut. Nightcrawler is kinda teleporting and slowly unclipping his helmet.
Mhm,
And then, of course, Scott decides to try and 1v1 him, and, it starts out with him and his special visor, and he's like, "You know what? You want it straight from the source? Like, you wanna go, buddy?" And so he just straight up takes his glasses off and full
mhm.
throttle laser
Right.
beams him, destroys all this stuff, and,
Cool mom.
Juggernaut is taking it, until it knocks his helmet off. And, of course, at this point, Juggernaut ends up making it to Scott, grabbing him, and like, basically, he's so drained, he just collapses, and Juggernaut thinks he's won. That is until a freaking Rogue jumps on his back, touching his face, using her abilities to basically zap him.
Mhm. He
And, at
punches
that
him
point.
off that thing so
Yes.
at it.
She, like, manhandles him,
Uh-huh.
like, beats him up, and then that's when they manage to trap him in a block of ice, and the scene ends with him kinda, like, being flung off into the very dam that he had, tried to destroy, and so they don't necessarily know where he ends up. However, as, like, a side effect from absorbing Juggernaut's powers and abilities, whatever, whatnot, Rogue ends up being able to get flashes of where Professor X's location is, and it ends up being in the prison Juggernaut was kept in.
Mhm,
So, they go there and they manage to free him, and who shows up other than Logan to kind of be like, "You guys were right, like, you know,
mhm,
let's go." And he's in his X-Men uniform, so it's kind of like the band's back together, you know?
mhm,
And then, at this moment too, like, the people at Congress are kind of like, "Okay, so, like, maybe we weren't right about mutants?"
mhm.
And the episode kinda ends with, like, I assume it's the president kind of,
Yeah, it's the
like, on
president.
television saying that, like, he pardons the X-Men, and he kinda gives this whole speech about how, humans and need to maybe learn more about mutants and how we shouldn't just be prejudiced. And it kind of like sets the tone for what I assume is like a world where people know about mutants. And that's not to say that the discrimination is over, but to say that obviously there's not going to be any current prosecution for openly of mutants. I
Yep.
say
Oh,
loosely.
mhm.
And, of course it pans to Magneto and his team, and they're kind of like, oh, they just maybe succeeded. And Magneto obviously is like, I don't know about that. And
Yep.
that's kind of where the episode
And
ends.
that's where it ends. And I love this episode so much, especially when you see the episodes before it, like the
Mhm.
drama. X-Men is a soap opera, so let's get that out of the way. So the drama that happens, the school exploding, Mystique, she does something that I don't want to spoil for people. Usually I'm a spoiler, but I'm like, I don't want to spoil this. Go watch X-Men. I want everybody to watch X-Men Evolution. But she does something, that causes her to like to get, hurt or whatever. It's just a whole bunch of stuff, and it's just like I really like this episode. I'm gonna give this episode. I'm trying like even as a standalone episode because it shows like the mutants and them working together as a team, and it's kind of showing like it kind of represents like the teen X-Men kind of growing up a bit more and standing like
Yeah.
on their own, like totally on their own. They don't have
Yeah.
any adults near them or whatever. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5. I love
I was gonna say, I'll give it a 5 out of 5.
it. Mm-hmm.
Like we mentioned, like the only thing that kind of stood out to me a bit was like the Logan thing was a little out of pocket, but I felt like outside of that, I felt like it was really good. They needed technically a devil's advocate, so I get why it was Logan because he's part of that like older generation, if you will. He's technically separate from the team, so it was to give, in a sense, the youth the chance to shine and like be independent. So I get why they picked him. But other than that, I thought it was a really well-rounded episode. It had some action. It had a little bit of development. It had the differing perspectives. I like that a lot. And so, I think it was pretty good.
And my sis Jean Grey. Jean freaking Grey. This is not even her most powerful, which is so funny. She just gets more and more powerful like every single episode. My sisters be going, she be going. Phoenix Force, anyway. We never see it. We see it on the last episode, but that's all I'm gonna say. But yes, I love this episode so much. And I think it's time, before we get to the end of the episode, that we start the game, right? So we're gonna get Hotness here and Professor S, the lame loser professor, and
What?
have some fun. See you.
Oh my gosh, we gonna pay
Hi, Fanatics. It's me, Kaiser, and
Sabrina.
And I'm here to tell you about the IAFO store. Buy stickers, buy shirts. Right, Sabrina?
Of course.
What's your favorite item on there? My favorite is my melanin collection. I love looking at my sweatshirts and the masks, the chains. It's so cool.
I actually enjoy the stickers. I love how each of them is themed after a different podcast episode done in your own unique style. I just think it's like a nice way to collect the year, having them all together and finishing out 2023 on a very high and colorful note.
Yes, right now we have the Ho 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 sticker with Santa Claus. We also have the melanin sticker. You can find all that there on the IAFO store. All at IAFOstore.com. Go and look at it right away.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. It's me, Professor Hotness. And just like Kaiser Brown, I am a big, huge, gigantic fan of X-Men Evolution. I know what needs to be known about this show. I've watched it every year just like him. We are the best of friends, me and X-Men Evolution. And today I'm joined by my old student, Professor S. Say hello, Professor S.
Hello.
Okay, let's just get started. You don't need to talk too much. All right. Are you ready to play this game and see if you know what you think you know about X-Men?
As
You don't know
ready as
nothing,
I'll
do
ever
you?
be.
You don't know nothing. Stop
I know a
talking.
little
Don't
bit.
talk unless you're spoken to, Professor S.
Oh my
I'm
God.
just kidding. I'm just
My
kidding.
teacher is terrible,
I
everyone.
like to joke with her. How are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well, aside from my old teacher being quite rude in his old age.
Just at least tell me you did your homework. You watched the show, didn't you?
Of course I did.
Oh, snap. Okay. Then I'm going to ask you some questions. This is how the game works. I'm going to list the powers, and you tell me who you think the character is. If you have trouble knowing who the character is, I will give you 3 names that you can choose out of, depending on, what you may know, okay? So are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Look how
Of
I explain
course.
those rules so badly. But that's okay. You know what? Let's just do it.
Go.
Which character can psionically create pure orbs of plasma
fiery-like energy, which often take the form of yellow and orange spheres.
Is that going to be Tabitha or Boom Boom? I guess it's her name.
Correct. Look at you, see? You know what you're doing.
Yeah, with no help from my teacher.
You know a little bit. Which character's body can absorb certain types of magnetic energy, including sunlight, metabolize it, and with it release destructive ruby red force-based beams through their eyes?
That is going to be Scott Summers or Cyclops.
Correct. Which character possesses advanced telepathic and telekinetic abilities, which allow her to create psionic energy in various ways, such as levitate, manipulate, move objects or people, and project force fields with her mind and, control or read people's minds, project her thoughts, scan locations to find specific things, all that stuff, complicated things.
That is going to be Jean Grey.
Correct. Let's see. Give me her original. If you can give me her original superhero name, I'll give you an extra point.
Ooh, that's hard.
They never use it in media for the most part.
Okay, yeah. I don't know that I'll know that. I know that she becomes the Phoenix, but that's all I know.
It's not the Phoenix. It's actually, get this, Marvel Girl. That's her original name. Marvel Girl.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and she takes it back every now and then. She still uses it every now and then, but for the most part, she goes as Jean Grey, right? This mutation grants this character the primary power to teleport through interdimensional phase shifting, vanishing from our dimension into another for a fraction of a second, then reappearing instantaneously within our dimension in any predetermined space within a limited 2-mile range.
Ooh, okay, so I want to say that it's going to be Kurt Wagner or Nightcrawler. Okay, I was about to say, because I know Kitty has a phasing ability that allows her to...
Yes, so with Kurt's powers, he in a second, he's always in a different dimension. So they focus on this on the episode. But that's not this episode. Okay, that was also another episode that Kaiser was gonna pick for this episode that he was considering. I did not too. All right. This power allows this character to phase through solid matter by shifting or separating the atoms of their body through intra-atomic spaces. They can phase through organic and inorganic matter with no damage to themselves or others.
That's gonna be Kitty, right?
Yes, correct. Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat, who now goes by Kate Pryde in the comic books. She goes by her real name now, and she goes by Shadowcat now too, but this time with a K. This character has the ability. Look at me knowing my X-Men. That's how you know I'm a true professor. Get it together, Professor S. But I like how you know some stuff. This character has the ability. This character has the ability to absorb the person's life force through direct skin contact, acquiring the individual's memories, skills, powers, and a fraction of the individual's personality for a limited time.
That's going to be Rogue, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
This character is able to manipulate and control the weather through their psionic connection to air current, water vapor, and natural electrical energy on both large and small scales. Also able to sustain flight at high speeds and resist greater levels of heat and cold without any ill effects. They also possess the psionic ability to control all forms of weather over a vast area.
That is going to be Storm.
I'll give you another bonus. I'll let you have this bonus point if you can tell me Storm's real name.
Yeah, no, I do not know her name.
Aurora Monroe. Means beauty. And Monroe is probably like a city or something. I don't know.
That shows your education, doesn't it, Professor Brown?
This character had a more human disposition, but an adverse reaction to a serum they created developed to suppress their mutation, causing their mutation to change, giving them full-body blue fur and an ape-like psychology. Their mutant psychology grants them superhuman strength.
That is going to be Beast.
Correct. Who's Beast's full name? I'll give you a point. Give him his
yeah. You realize you're extending these bonus points. However, I do not know their names outside of it.
That is Hank McCoy.
I feel like I knew his name was Hank.
I knew you were
McCoy was not gonna pick out.
This character has unparalleled
not anymore, but unparalleled telepathic abilities. They can read and control the minds of other humans, project their thoughts, scan locations to find specific minds, influence both cognitive and motor functions in others, scan and alter memories, create powerful illusions, release psychic blasts capable of disabling opponents, and projecting their mind outside of their body to travel to the astral plane. Who was that?
That is going to be Professor Xavier, correct?
Correct. This mutant is able to psychonically alter the formation of their biological cells at will, allowing them to shapeshift into any animal, human, or non-living object. They are also somebody's baby daddy.
That is going to be Mystique.
Mm-hmm. You go, girl.
I know, right? Nightcrawler's baby daddy.
It's complicated. Don't worry about it.
That's my favorite canonic truth of X-Men. Back to the class.
This mutant has geothermal powers that grant them the ability to control the movement of tectonic plates underground, even to the extent of causing seismic upheavals. They can also call forth molten rock from the Earth's core, producing projectiles composed of lava or miniature volcanoes, and they can generate intense heat and flame capable of melting steel.
That's gonna be magma, correct? And
correct. It's Amara. Okay, and the last one. This is a powerful mutant who can generate and control magnetic fields and various magnetic forces.
That's gonna be Magneto.
Correct. Ding, ding, ding. Look at you, Professor X. You got all of them correct besides the bonus points. You can't all be perfect because she's not at all whatsoever. But look at you. I've taught you well.
You've taught me nothing. I've had to teach myself.
Listen here, smart mouth. I ain't got time for this. I'm your teacher. Then little Timmy beat you up on that field a week or two ago. Don't come at me. I'll beat you up too. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this game show quiz. I hope you had a fun time. We're now going to go back to the most amazing hosts, Kaiser Brown and that other girl whose name I cannot remember. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Sabrina. Don't believe anything Professor Hotness says. I love you, and you're a great person, okay?
But I'm not Professor S, okay? And also, I would just like to say that he seems to be very misinformed. I heard that Professor S kicked Timmy's ass last week. So, all I can say...
That's the exact opposite I heard. Like, wow.
Well, you weren't there to watch. I'm the one who went and watched. So
okay. Anyways, before we end, the guy that I was talking about, the artist that drew that Teenage Storm that I forgot, their name, I need you guys to follow them. Their name is say_art on Twitter and say_art on Instagram. I'm going to send a shout out to you, Say Art, because first of all, I love your art. Second of all, I love X-Men Evolution. Third of all, I love Storm. So you put all three of those together, okay? And they have this iconic, it's truly iconic X-Men image. I'm going to put it here, of Storm, Jean Grey, and Emma Frost just posing on the Krakoa table. They look, Storm, we all know Storm, Jean Grey, and Emma Frost are my favorite 3 X-women, okay? So I just love you, okay? Like, marry me. I love you so much. Don't do that. That was just a joke. Stop it. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Sabrina, did you enjoy this episode?
Yeah, it was great. It was fun. And it has me hyped for next episode, right? Because we're doing a Christmas special.
Yes, we are doing a Christmas special next episode. We're not going to tell you what it is because we haven't decided yet. But when we do, we'll let you know what it is. So the Christmas special is going to be coming out. It's going to be super fun. And we're going to have another episode after that. And then the animation takeover.
The final.
Yes, will end. Oh, it's gonna be so sad. It's gonna be so...
I know. What content are you gonna use? I said, what content are you gonna use?
What content am I gonna use? Oh, well, I have a few ideas in store, and we're just gonna have to wait and see. Guys, I want to thank you all for listening to this episode. Thank you for, of course, watching X-Men Evolution. If you didn't, I'm gonna destroy you with Sentinels. And bye.
I'm just your sweet next door neighbor. I do what I'm told and I never cause any trouble.
Whistling.
Don't mess with my kind. Don't play with my mind. I'm only a girl, but I can move the world. Don't put me down or kick me to the ground. I'll be up in a flash, a superhuman blast. I may be out to have a little bit of fun. I've got a life of my own, and it's just begun. I got powers that you can't deny. Treat me wrong and I'm gone in the blink of an eye. Don't mess with my kind. Don't play with my mind. I'm only a girl, but I can move the world. Don't put me down or kick me to the ground. I'll be up in a flash, a superhuman blast. Don't mess with my kind. Don't play with my mind. I'm only a girl, but I can move the world. Don't put me down or kick me to the ground. I'll be up in a flash, a superhuman blast.
All right, as a little bonus, you need to watch this X-Men Evolution intro. You need to play it.
Okay, I'm there.
All right,
I'm
get
right
ready.
here.
Start it. Press play. And start dancing too. That's right. You need to make sure you watch that. That's what I thought. Yep. That's what I thought.
It was so good.
It was good enough. It was good enough. But it's the point whether it's good or not is not the point. The point is that you should have watched that intro, Sabrina. You should have listened to it. You should have watched it. You don't do that to X-Men. I don't care if I have. That's like watching a Proud Family and skipping that intro. Proud Family, what? Do you skip the Proud Family intro, Sabrina?
No.
Just answer that for my colored people.
I said I haven't skipped it yet, but I haven't seen the new show yet. I've only seen the old one.
That's fine. You don't have to. Just making sure.
I would just like to remind you of this when I make you watch all of Steven Universe that you can't skip the music.
I never really skip intros like that unless I see it too much consecutively. And even then, like, why would I skip that? That's a major part of the show. But that's not the point. Don't do reminders for me. This is my episode, Sabrina. This is my episode.
God. Okay, but like, what did that contribute other than people's names? What did that contribute?
What does the Steven Universe intro contribute other than other people's names?
Serotonin.
Answer that.
Serotonin.
What did it say? Garnet,
Serotonin.
Amethyst, and Pearl, and Steven. That's literally all they say. Yeah, bye.